Hi everyone, welcome to our Wednesday morning TNT. Great to have you with us, and I'll do my best to try and keep you up to date with all the things happening around Thailand. Now we're going to zoom around the country today, starting in Pattaya, and this is from PattayaMail.com. Pattaya tourism numbers zoom amid political crisis fears. Good heavens, there's a lot to unpack in that. Let's see what the story says. It says 9.5 million foreign tourists have arrived in Thailand so far this year, with 3 million heading direct to Pattaya. The national economy has benefited to the tune of 11 billion baht, it says, with Pattaya contributing around about a third of that. The Bank of Thailand says it's confident there will be 28 million arrivals in the entire calendar year, which compares with 40 million in pre-pandemic 2019. Of course, we had a really good start to the year. We had the high season, we had the return of Chinese tourists, we had this rather odd situation, the geopolitical situation, creating an opening for Russians to come to Thailand in very large numbers. We're now entering what we call the low season. The wet season starts around the country, and traditionally the hotels become a lot quieter. So if they're expecting this big surge of tourists to just continue throughout the year, they're probably mistaken. Thai authorities have developed a number of strategies to maximise the influx. Chinese arrivals nationally have been sluggish because of a shortage of aircraft and delays in issuing new passports, but are expected to increase to multiple flights hourly by the end of summer. So I think they're talking about Suvarnabhumi Airport there in Bangkok, not the Utupao Airport, which services Pattaya and Rayong. Now, Thai immigration is also simplifying the 15-day visa on arrival for Chinese citizens by permitting paperwork to be completed pre-flight. Meanwhile, the nationals of 60 countries, including the UK, the US, most of mainland Europe and Australia, can extend their 30 days visa exempt permission for a further month without having to leave the country. Well, the situation there, of course, is that that's always been the case. It's not as if the Immigration Department have suddenly found a new way to extend visa exemptions. A spokesperson for the Pattaya Entertainment Collective said nightlife was more or less back to normal after the pandemic, and added there was the additional bonus of, well, I've had to blank out that word. Why? Because every time that word appears in print or I actually say it, we seem to get demonetized by YouTube. Now, it starts with a C, ends with an S, there's a lot of smoke in the middle, and it's just a no-go. Because why? I've contacted YouTube and they say advertisers don't want to be associated with that product. So what can I do? I'm just going to have to mind my P's and Q's and C's in the meantime, whilst YouTube keep demonetizing any video where I mention that word. And then halfway down that rather long paragraph, the main problem for Pattaya employers in the hospitality industry has been finding enough staff, especially in hotels, according to the Eastern Thailand Hoteliers Association. Attempts are being made to fill the gap by recruiting more workers from Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos, with whom the Thai government has a memorandum of understanding. So I hear that same problem from everybody, not only here in Phuket, but also up in Bangkok. Friends in the hospitality industry saying they simply can't find good staff at the moment. Quite a conundrum. Just going on with that story, tourism will be the key pillar supporting our growth this year, according to an economist at the Siam Commercial Bank, but the threat comes from the May 14 Thai general election. And although most commentators downplay the prospect of yet another military intervention, it would need to be a strange self-coup, as army leaders currently run the country as caretakers, and of course they've also stacked the Senate. The prospect of a prolonged and bitter parliamentary conflict or an unstable minority government is already worrying investors. If political tensions spill over into the streets, arrivals growth will slump as in the past 2 decades. According to Crystal Tan from the ANZ. Still, if all goes well, a new government will be in office by August. So a little bit of editorial and speculation there in that article from PattayaMail.com, but good to see that Pattaya is busy at the moment. Let's go on to our next story, and this all the way from Chiang Mai. Thai PBS World reporting that Chiang Mai Zoo optimistic it will get another giant panda from China. China has not closed the door on negotiations with Thailand for a new giant panda to replace Lin Hui, the star attraction at the Chiang Mai Zoo for 2 decades, which died there on April the 19th at the age of 21. And just paraphrasing, the director of the Chiang Mai Zoo said an autopsy stated that Thailand had taken very good care of the panda, above the required standard during the past 2 decades, and the good relationship between Thailand and China remains intact. You got to love panda diplomacy. And an autopsy by the Thai Forest Department and the Giant Panda Research and Conservation Centre has confirmed that Lin Hui died of old age, adding that the report has cleared all doubts about the cause of the panda's demise. And despite the autopsy findings, the director said Thailand still obliged to pay the 15 million baht compensation for the death of the panda. And the last paragraph, an animal which is as rare and as valuable as a panda will be placed in Lin Hui's enclosure at the Chiang Mai Zoo. He admitted, however, that after the death of the panda and the PM 2.5 dust problem, fewer tourists are visiting the zoo. Well, I would have thought that smoke crisis would have been the main problem. People weren't visiting the northern Thailand city at this time. There's a great photo there of Lin Hui, who departed us back on April the 19th. Let's hope the zoo can get another panda. And on to our next story, and this is a follow-up to the 300 baht tourism fee. Arrival fee, arrival tax, tourist levy, whatever you want to call it. It's reported by the Bangkok Post, and they say the matter is in the hands of the new government, and the new government's expected to decide the fate of the 300 baht tourism fee, which remains uncertain because of roadblocks from unclear implementation. So we're going to have this brand new tourism tax. Oh, okay, how are you going to collect it? We haven't quite sorted that out, but it's going to be really good. Since the Cabinet approved in February the collection of a 300 baht tourism fee from foreigners visiting Thailand by air and a 150 baht fee for visitors by land or sea, the scheme's not been publicised in the Royal Gazette, which means there's no impetus to start the project within a specified time frame. So if you were all worried about a 300 baht tourism tax starting in, June and then it was September, doesn't look like it's going to be starting anytime soon. The new government's expected to revise the scheme and decide whether to continue, postpone or adjust the collection methods. I'm tipping it's going to be scrapped. Mr. Yutasak, he's the governor of the TAT, said the tourism fee collection should be postponed until the industry's fully recovered. He said the most appropriate fee is to start from next year. The proposed measure called for embedding the fee in airfares, but airlines said this is an impractical option and the ministry's been hamstrung in trying to find a feasible solution. Setting up automatic kiosks at airports was also discussed, but with the surge of daily arrivals, this process might cause inconvenience and provoke discontent among tourists if they face congestion at airports. Yes, we don't really need another place we have to stop and queue up. Maybe we could just give the 300 baht to the immigration officials. I'm sure that would work. Oh dear. And Marissa, the president of the Thai Hotels Association, usually a voice of common sense, said hoteliers mostly support postponing the project to next year when the industry's in a better shape. And down the bottom there, the structure of the fund's management must also be clear so we can explain to tourists how their money will be spent. So I think transparency is the key here. If they embed it in the airline ticket price somehow, then we're just not even going to notice. But I think if we know how it's going to be spent and have knowledge of how it's going to be collected, then I think a lot of people will be much happier about the issue. Now, I should thank 5 Star Marine, our sponsor. If you go to a link in the description and you click on that, there'll be a special deal for our viewers here on TNT. That's good for 5 Star Marine, it's good for you, and it's good for me. So it's the link in the description that you should click if you want to find out more about heading out to the islands from Phuket, and a big thanks to 5 Star Marine. Heading to Bangkok on the Wednesday TNT, and the protesters might have been outsmarted yesterday. Let's head to ThaiPBSWorld.com. Move Forward supporters rally to persuade senators to vote for Pita in scorching summer heat, which I suppose is the Thailand version of "it was a dark and stormy night." The United Front of Thammasat and Demonstration organised a rally in the hope of applying pressure on senators to vote for the Move Forward Party leader as the next Thai Prime Minister. On the UFTD's Facebook page, it said they'd called on the people who are the genuine holders of sovereign power to gather in front of the Parliament. A prominent anti-establishment Thai activist told Thai PBS World that people have the right to choose who would become our next Prime Minister and what kind of government Thai citizens desire to see. And there she is down the bottom there, explaining why senators should support Pita for the premiership. Staff of UFTD stated that Pita and the Move Forward Party won 152 seats in the election. In a democracy, senators who are not elected by the people should abide by the will of Thailand citizens. Let's see how NationThailand.com covered the story. Group rallies outside Parliament wants senators to vote for Pita as PM. Police were deployed on Tuesday evening to ensure security in Bangkok's Dusit district after the UFTD announced a rally against senators at the Parliament building. And around 5 p.m, up to 300 protesters staged a protest in front of the Parliament. But the Senate met in an extraordinary session on Tuesday to approve candidates from independent organisations. However, the meeting was adjourned at 2 p.m, so the protesters got there about 3 hours after the senators had left. Anyway, obviously it's been reported, their point's been made, and it was in the end a peaceful protest. Moving on to our next story, also in Thai PBS World, and speaking of Pita, Pita arrives with Federation of Thai Industries to soothe concerns. But it wasn't so much the meeting with the FTI that was of interest to the media, it was the method by which he arrived. Indeed, the prospective Prime Minister arrived on a motorcycle taxi. And Move Forward's leader Pita stole the limelight again yesterday by using a motorcycle taxi to go to a meeting at the FTI. He did not say why he used a bike, but Saton Road, where the FTI is situated, is infamous for its traffic congestion. But it's not the first time Pita has arrived on a motorcycle taxi since the election. The first time was on May the 18th when he went to a hotel to his first meeting after the election to announce the formation of his government. He said he wanted to avoid the traffic. Well, you can't argue with a person who's trying to make the best of their time. If you want to avoid Bangkok's worst traffic, there's nothing better than a motorcycle taxi. Well, let's find out what he actually went to the meeting for. Well, he told reporters that after gathering information from the private sector and SME labour about the minimum wage, he'll bring the matter for discussion with his party's transition panel as well as coalition partners this week. So one of the outlines in the MOU announced on Monday was raising the minimum wage, and it was also part of the manifesto of the Move Forward Party before the election. He emphasised that the Per Thai Party, the number 2 in the coalition, supported the idea of raising the minimum wage, and this would not be the first time the minimum wage would rise this much, from about 353 to 450. During Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's time, the minimum wage rose to 300 baht throughout the country. So the last 2 elected governments certainly want to see some rise and consistency in the minimum wage around Thailand. Let's check the response from the FTI. The FDI vice chairman said he expected the meeting to create understanding and build confidence in terms of daily wages, cost of electricity and water, as well as possible reforms of law that are obstacles to economic growth. He praised the new level of cooperation between the core party of the new government and the private sector. So at least a good initial meeting between the private sector and the possible Prime Minister-elect, not exactly sure how to refer to Pita at the moment. Well, perhaps he doesn't have to arrive in a motorcycle taxi next time. Maybe he could arrive in an electric vehicle, because the Bangkok Post reports that more Thais are open to buying battery-powered vehicles. Some 31% of Thais are projected to choose a battery-powered electric vehicle as their next vehicle, the highest proportion within Southeast Asia. Both Thai and regional consumers indicated a preference for new cars for their next vehicle. Certainly Thais love buying new cars. They don't like so much buying used cars, but they don't like lowering the price to make them cheaper, unless it's a 1980 pale blue Mercedes-Benz. And the findings were based on Deloitte's latest survey on consumer behaviour in the industry, especially regarding the EV trend. It was conducted between September and October last year. The interviews covered more than 6,000 consumers in Southeast Asia, all those countries there. And a Deloitte spokesman said demand for EVs is growing across the region as consumers want to reduce their fuel expense. Lower fuel costs are still the leading reason among consumers to switch to an EV. And of course, a lot of these EVs are now built in Southeast Asian countries, especially Thailand. Now, heading down to Songkhla, this story from the PattayaNews.com, 10 people injured after a bus crash in Songkhla. And look at that, the sight of these huge buses with the people sitting on top and the luggage below in a ditch in Songkhla. 10 people have sustained injuries after a bus from Bangkok heading to Pattaya that was carrying 30 passengers crashed in Songkhla. And emergency responders arrived at the scene to find the bus on the roadside. 10 injured people were found inside the bus. One of the injured was a woman who had a broken leg. They were all taken to hospital. And here we go with the explanation. The main bus driver, and it explains that long-haul buses in Thailand generally operate with multiple drivers. The 49-year-old said, "I was sleeping while the second driver was driving the bus. The second driver told me that he was trying to pick up a mobile phone he dropped before he lost control of the bus." Well, it doesn't look like there's much mystery to that incident. I imagine some charges will be laid, and we do wish those people the best with their recovery. Now heading to an interesting story from Indonesia, and this is covered by coconuts.co, their Jakarta edition. And environmental activist group Panda takes on Indonesia's dirtiest beach. You won't believe how dirty this beach actually is. And the Pandawara group has seen it all. The group of environmentally conscious youngsters have made a name for themselves cleaning up some of the filthiest rivers in Indonesia, which they regularly documented through viral videos on TikTok. No better way to shame government officials than using social media. But the West Java-based group faced a new challenge recently, a beach they dubbed the dirtiest in Indonesia. In their latest video, which was uploaded yesterday, they called on the public to join them in their cleanup efforts of, Talak Beach in Pandeglang, Banten. The extent of the filth of this beach, where it's hard to even spot sand amid the waste, must be seen to be believed. And that's where the beach is. You've got Jakarta there, so the beach is around about 50 kilometres away from the city of Jakarta, and it looks like there's plenty of refuse that decides to land on this particular beach. Here's some of that video, and all praise to these youngsters who have made it sort of a career of theirs to do something about some of the filthy beaches in Indonesia. This is absolutely revolting. I've certainly never seen anything quite like this, and to think this is in the front of a community that just decides they're going to use the beach as a place to chuck rubbish rather than actually try and keep it clean and perhaps do something radical like attract tourists. So congratulations to that particular group. And the Pandeglang Environmental Agency, which at least had the decency to join yesterday's cleanup, said they were totally planning to sort out the beach themselves. We were going to do it soon, really. And a spokesman for the district said his agency last cleaned up the beach in October 2022, but they have not been able to make this a routine due to limitations in equipment. He said that locals refused to pay for the administration's garbage pickup service and resorted to tossing their waste on the beach. Well, let's hope that publicity might shame those locals into paying for some sort of garbage collection. I've never seen a beach so badly polluted in my life. And that story from coconuts.co, their Jakarta edition. Thanks for watching today. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date with things happening around Thailand and Indonesia. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying what you're seeing. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.